And we're back. We've got the whole band back together again.
I forgot what you guys look like. It's been so long, man.
Yeah, when was the last podcast that the three of us did together?
Had to be May or June.
Heck if I know.
Had to be a long time ago.
It was several vacations ago. It was a summer heat wave ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys don't look a day older though, so that's perfect.
Well, I don't know about Duane, but that, I mean,
I look a lot older. I am crazy old. Although I was just in a car with Jon Dueck for 5 hours as we were driving to Santa Barbara, and in that conversation, he said he's 51, and he says he's pointing at me and saying, "So how old are you?" You're like 53 or so, and I went, "Dude, I'm 57," and he said the magic words, "Wow, you look younger than that." I'm like, if I wasn't driving, I'd kiss you right now. You know, it's like, this is awesome. Because we use Jon's name, it means that we have at least one new listener to our
Yeah. All right.
So somebody tag him on that. Cole, what have you been doing? Let's do a quick greet and then we'll jump into business.
Yeah, no, just, starting the year back off, busy with school districts and contracts and getting everything started, back to school PDs and getting teachers excited. And so just happy to, be working again with our teachers in our area.
Good. Scott, what have you been up to?
Man, tell you what, over the summer, my teaching partner and I, one of the perks of being in a small school is we're allowed to kind of do some experimentation. So this year, all the Math 2 students at our high school here, we are going to basically mastery grading. So working with CV Nick down out of Tico there. So, hey, man, we got 4 more people. Maybe we'll tune in. Name drop. And through the work with BTC and then Fearless Grading, we read those 2 books as part of the program, and admin all the way up to the superintendent has greenlit it to let us do this as an improvement science study. Nice. So we're going to let this rip for at least a semester, if not longer, and see how it goes.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a big lift. We're a little scared, but we're excited for what the potential it has. So. We're week 2. Parents are happy. We had open house night, so parents didn't go light torches and bring pitchforks back. So I think we're okay.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
So you guys are both. You both referred to kind of like the school year has just started, and indeed that is the case for most of my schools. Except one of the schools I work with is a kind of a year-round school. Ooh. So I've been back in business since July 8th. So I've been in, 6 weeks. So my school year is already 6 or 8, 7 weeks in, deep. And
are you in mid-season form already?
Today, dude, I did, 7 different demonstration lessons on 5 different lessons. So I was only able to repeat a couple of those lessons. I was on fire. And guess what? I had a half hour to prepare for all 5 of those lessons. And here's why I was able to do it. Because I was teaching, this is a sneak preview, everybody, for why you need to continue listening to this episode. The way I did it is I just used the 5 components of equitable and engaging teaching. And I just said, okay, what do I need? I need these things. And once I do those things, boom, it was so easy. I'll tell you, it was liberating to quickly create 5 killer lessons in essentially 30 minutes. It was.
Duane, where are you going to find those 5 pieces at, my friend?
The sneak preview is it will be chapter 2 of the California Framework.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't pitch you all softballs for the rest of this, though. So we got to come something more challenging here.
So true.
Cool.
Before we talk about that, we got to talk about CMC Central. Cole, what's been going on in CMC Central?
What hasn't been going on in CMC Central? That's the question, right? So no, we've had a couple of webinars since our last episode. So we had, I think Albert, and I think we might've done something right after Albert. And then we had Annie Feder with us just a couple weeks ago. And or was it last week? I don't even remember anymore. My weeks are running together, everybody. But yeah, no, we've been busy there and planning for our upcoming symposium. So we got a lot of work going on there and excited.
Yeah.
A lot of positive energy.
So last year we had that famous spreadsheet, row 17, which was just the row of breakout sessions that will just never be topped. And I'm betting this year we're going to have this year's version of row 17. It's looking good.
Yep.
Do you want to sneak preview who are going to do the keynotes, or do you want to hold off until we get some of the other pieces in line?
We can do a sneak preview. Do you think that would entice the guests, start thinking about marking their calendar for March 7th and 8th?
Sure, if you think.
Yeah. So we will be joined Friday night by the Dr. Jo Bowler, and she'll be talking to us. And I believe it's going to be focused on her new book, Mathish. And so she actually gave us a little bit of a talk. What was that, May?
Yeah.
June? Yeah, about Mathish. And so she'll be doing some more work around that and the symposium on the Friday night. And then we'll be joined on Saturday, all the way from the East Coast, Pam Harris. And so Pam's been huge in our area and the work that she's been doing with number strings. And so we are very excited to have her in action on Saturday morning.
Yeah. And just last night, you and I were, and this is too soon, so we can't announce anything, but we're hammering out what the leadership pre-symposium is looking like. I'm
outstanding.
Yeah, we're aiming for twice as big as last year. So in terms of the pre-symposium, I'm kind of stoked. I really am.
Well, and what's interesting is everywhere that I go and start talking to people about the conference, this would be participants, this would be speakers, this would be the exhibitors. And they're all saying Central's their favorite. And I don't think they are just saying that because they're talking to me.
We got people from SoCal listening. SoCal's listening, man. Come on now.
But
make any enemies.
It's not an enemy. Or is it? It's a different. They're different environments, though. They serve different purposes, right? And I think that we need both, kind of in our math ecosystem. And so, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and we're super excited for it.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, that's what makes Central unique is the fact that the way it is set up, it's a large symposium, but is still a symposium. And from my humble origins back when I came onto the council a long time ago to seeing where you two and the crews have taken it, your guys' boards over the last couple of years, man, I'm proud to say I'm from Central. I'll tell you that. You guys have done an amazing job. I know it hasn't been easy, but it's been amazing, the work you brought to that and the needs of the Central Valley. We're all passionate about our Central Valley people and what the needs of them and supporting our teachers here. So kudos, gentlemen. Keep rolling.
Yep, I'm loving it. It just occurred to me that my, Central Valley is often kind of a pass-through community. You just kind of drive through on your way to Sacramento, or you drive through on your way down to Anaheim for Disneyland or San Diego or something. So and then that idea of being a pass-through community or a drive-through community really hit home when I realized that my Merced city that I'm living in, literally the town motto is Gateway to Yosemite. It's like, which like I knew we were the gateway to Yosemite. But it hit me differently. Like our motto is, don't stay here, don't visit here, just drive through here and go somewhere better. And that's our motto. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with that? And so I want a math symposium that is not like a gateway to better conferences. I want our math symposium to be the frickin' destination that it's supposed to be. And man, it just hit me. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to preach like that. Okay, now we're going to undo or revisit the sneak preview that we did, because that's our A block and our B block. Now we're going to do our C block, and this is how we're going to end it. So chapter 2 in the California framework is absolutely revolutionary. They talk about the 3 dimensions for supporting change and all that sort of stuff. And we talked about those 3 dimensions: assets-based instruction, active engagement through connections and explorations, and then cultural and personal relevance. So those are the 3 dimensions for supporting change. Part of that is to say, well, change for what? And the change for what is the 5 components of equitable and engaging teaching for all students. And this is kind of problematic because if they're going to claim in the framework, these are the 5 things, that means kind of like mastery-based grading. If you're going to claim this is the way it's supposed to be, you have to understand what each of those things are. And so the first one is to plan teaching around big ideas. The second component is to use open and engaging tasks. The third one is to teach towards social justice. The fourth, invite student questions and conjectures. And then the fifth one is to prioritize reasoning and justification. They sound great. 5 discrete things that I'm supposed to do a killer lesson in my school. Got it. The problem is component number 1, plan teaching around big ideas. So it starts off with the problem. Cole, take it from here.
Yeah, way to set me up, Duane. Yeah.
What a hype man there.
Right? All of these things, except for, so the plan teaching to big ideas, it sounds wonderful and great. And we know that research says this is the way that it should be done. And when we have experiences around big ideas, like kids are experiencing that, there's more greater transfer of knowledge. But in the last, I don't know, 5-6 months, I've really been grappling with this idea of planning to teach to big ideas, given current resources available that teachers have in their hands right now, kind of some of the things that I've seen on the horizon from various people, and then a recent doubling down or a re-emergence of districts investing in like professional learning community work. And I've really been grappling with, the data teams and the structure of these grade levels and the guiding coalitions and all of, and equity centered, pieces of that all are in alignment with the framework. And I don't think anybody can argue with those pieces. My challenge that I am grappling with, I haven't figured out an answer yet. So I'd love to get your guys' feedback on, and maybe some suggestions or recommendations or things to think about, is, one of the very first things you do whenever you're engaging in the PLC work is you start by saying, well, what are our grade level essentials or non-essentials, right? What are the things that we are guaranteed in viable curriculum, things that kids are going to leave us no matter what? And then once you identify those, standards or subsets of standards, you'll probably do some mapping across grade levels and look for coherence of those standards. But at the end of the day, you still end up with a subset of your grade level standards, right? And then you're going to go through and you're going to say, well, what does mastery look like of OA1? And what does mastery not look like? And you're going to do all this norming work, and all of that work, the norming, the conversation is absolutely a beautiful thing. And I'm not saying to get rid of that. I think my grapple is with, we're telling teachers the very first thing to do is to go and prioritize standards, when the framework is saying, actually don't prioritize standards, teach all standards, and then teach them in this big idea way. And I'm worried that if districts are reinvesting, and this will be kind of it, and I'll let you guys share, but like, if districts are reinvesting in this work right now before adoptions come, they're going to already have what they've determined to be the essential standards, regardless of how those are laid out in a future program they have. And so what's going to happen whenever I go and I adopt this, what is going to be hopefully more framework aligned program? Am I going to be forced to do what I do now, which is chop my program up to fit where my essential standards are in my scope and sequence I'm building? Can I trust to teach my program through, and the kids will get those skills that I know they need? Like, so I'm really grappling with how to support districts in this moment in time where we don't have any for sure resources out yet, really, but they want to do the work because it's part of their system and their ecosystem.
Yep. All right, Scott, I'm gonna make a statement, and you're gonna take this statement, because for the people in the audience, which is now including, by the way, I was told, Maria from Chile, she listens to this, and so, like,
Hi Maria.
Thank
you.
And actually, it's Maria. and then she's got a second part of her first name, and I can't quite remember it off the top of it. I believe it's IG, like Ignatia, Maria Ignatia.
Put it in the comments after you post the show.
Yeah. And when she introduced herself, I didn't quite hear her that second part of her name, and she said, "Well, you could just call me Maria." And I'm like, "No, I want to call you by your actual name." And so for the day of that conversation, I was calling her by both names, but now I can only remember Maria from Chile. Anyway, so Scott, while I'm going to give you a softball. So Cole, you're saying we got this tension between big ideas versus the PLC slice and dice. Meanwhile, we got Scott, who 15 minutes ago says one of his big things that he's going to be working on is slicing and dicing the curriculum or the standards to understand this mastery-based grading, right? So Scott, hurry up and come up with a solution.
Wait for my book. It'll be out in 3 years. No. I'll make sure to get you guys in the thank yous for that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. When we started the process, we actually got a couple PD days towards the end of last school year to start looking at how we're going to address the big ideas. And I guess we couldn't think of really any other way than just to sit down and go, okay, what are we addressing currently, and how does that map? And then what do we need to increase, add to, delete maybe? Maybe we're spending too much time in some of those smaller areas and not enough in the major areas. And really try to be effective with where are we currently? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there?
Right.
I think that's kind of the planning that we did. And the beautiful thing about it is the district is okay with us just going, right now, this is where we are. It's where we want to go. And next year, as we learned this year, we're just going to modify it. We're going to take it as it lies and do the best we can with it. And, if we have to change, we need to change. And if we have to, we're going to change. It's just that refining thing. And did we hit our marks? Did we miss our marks? We had to bring in some things though we had to bring in some other measurement tools. How are we meeting those areas? And how are we effectively measuring that data? I think that our biggest focus right now is, can we get authentic data without tainting it, without having it be disrupted by equity issues? The way we were running the program, we felt had some large inequities that we need to get out of the way so we could really dig deeper into the problems. One of them was just the way we were grading.
Yep.
Too much time was spent on homework, grading homework. Do you grade it? Do you not grade it? Is it right? Is it wrong? Do you get feedback on it? Is it a participation grade? Okay, the grade the kid did it. And we really felt we weren't getting authentic grades from kids. It was the point chasing, as I think it's Doug Reeves writes Fearless Grading. I don't know. I have the book close by. And we don't want that anymore. We don't want that kid going, oh, got to do 3 more assignments. Can I get a B? Like, hey, how about you get proficient on another standard and we'll get you a B, sort of thing. So that's kind of been our guiding light on that. But we use the big ideas though as are we putting our efforts in the right baskets?
Right.
We tried to map what we were doing, and hopefully it goes in the right direction. I don't know. I'll let you know in 6 weeks. Make sure we put that in the show notes so we follow up on that, because we'll have a couple of assessments in and we'll see how we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Cole.
I'm just curious. Like I said, I've been really. This has been what's keeping me up at night lately.
Right.
But as you're doing that work, Scott, are you organizing, like, let's say Unit 1? Are you saying there's like these 1, 2, 3 big ideas that Unit 1 is focused on? And is your day-to-day around the big idea, or is just the overarching theme around the big idea, so that you're able to get to that minute, like, standard-based assessment, which is where you're going?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you organizing the content so that you're living in both worlds?
We looked at, are most of the standards being put in the right areas? So, without the big bubbles. Are we, do we say all the bulk of the standards we're teaching, are they hitting the big bubbles sort of thing? And it doesn't necessarily, we're not teaching that big bubble in isolation. It's throughout the whole year. We use CPM, so it's that spiraling piece. So everything builds and layers on itself as it goes. So we're really trying to see, does the overall program put all the right eggs in the right baskets by the end of the sequence, I guess. So Unit 1 isn't just focused on any one particular area. It's throughout the whole year, throughout the whole longevity of what we're teaching. Did we put the emphasis in the right areas? And we actually, our old pacing, we actually dumped about 27% of it and had to reallocate assets and area into other areas. And that was basically guided out of the big ideas. We weren't hitting enough of the big ideas in the quantity we determined to be important.
All right. So I let you guys talk. Now let me give you the right answer.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Totally kidding. Totally kidding. But I am gonna read from chapter 2 because I think so. I have been grappling on this idea of big ideas, and then Cole, of course, you're talking about how do big ideas relate to kind of an antithetical behavior, which is PLC work, which is slicing and dicing, and like, okay, so before I can even understand that, I have to understand, well, what the heck is a big idea in the first place? Because quite frankly, I'm kind of confused. I don't know what constitutes a big idea. And I understand I can look at those webs and I can look at the circles, and the bigger the circle and the more the connections and all that. That doesn't help me because I need to know, what am I supposed to do on Tuesday when I'm teaching? Like, and so just keeping it real there. But in chapter 2, it talks about in the big ideas section, it talks about teachers needing to design lessons. So I'm totally paraphrasing here, but teachers need to design lessons that develop important content by drawing out students' understanding so that the teachers can then build on all of those ideas that are bubbling out of the kids. Okay, so that's a weird description of a big idea. I had never read that in that way before. So here's my I'm going to propose an example of what that might be. And I think this is going to answer your question, Cole, in terms of, am I thinking about a big idea or am I thinking about discrete skills? And the big idea is the unit title kind of a thing. Is, let's say I'm talking about 5th grade and we're doing multiplying fractions. So that's got a very tiny standard, 5.nf. Whatever the number is. And so that's a very small thing. And you might not call that a big idea, but it's how the teacher designs the lesson and develops that idea that might make it a big idea. For example, I, as a teacher, am going to deliberately teach multiplying fractions on a coordinate grid that relates the length and width of a rectangle. So 3.5 times 4 2/3 represents a rectangle that is 3.5 wide by 4 2/3 tall. So what do the students have to do? Well, now the students, before they can even do multiplying fractions, they have to remember what the hell a fraction is in the first place, put it on a coordinate grid kind of a thing, and then draw it, and then complete the rectangle, draw the rectangle. And in doing that, the teacher has designed a lesson that is going to draw out students' understandings. And then the teacher might say, all right, one of the definitions of multiplying in 3rd grade was, repeated addition, equal groups. But now that we're in 5th grade, another definition of multiplication is area. Now that you've drawn the rectangle, figure out the area of this new rectangle. Go find a unit square and count how many unit squares are living inside this rectangle. And so the idea would be, I know I have to teach this discrete standard, but I can teach it in a big ideas by connecting where do fractions live on a number line, connecting it to the area model, connecting it even to the one quadrant in a graph. And so now it's this big ass idea that stemmed from a very discrete need to teach multiplying fractions. So I don't know what you would call the lesson or the theme or all that sort of stuff, Cole, but I'm thinking maybe that's what a big idea is. And maybe as we move forward to a future episode, we can kind of continue hashing out how does this big idea relate to PLC work?
Yeah, so how you just explained it, this idea. So I think that maybe part of the problem is that we feel like the big ideas that are listed are the only big ideas. And that was never the intent or the design, right? Those are exemplars of big ideas.
Right.
And so how you just described of us starting with what might be like kids have to know how to multiply fractions in fifth. Like that's a skill that they have to leave, because if not, doomsday when they get to sixth, right? So if I know that, so if that might be the essential that I've designed, but that doesn't mean that I can't bring in other standards like you're suggesting, right? And I can still be looking for evidence of the multiplying fraction. That's the evidence I care about.
There, yeah.
Right? But the experience is helping kids draw other connections back to that key idea that I wanted them to leave with.
Yes. And some of those little ideas, some of them are actually fourth grade, in this case, fourth grade standards. Placing a fraction on a number line happens to be a fourth grade standard. Now, in the spirit of acceleration versus remediation, I'm teaching a fifth grade standard, but I've deliberately decided to do it using the area model, which requires students to activate a fourth grade skill of placing these fractions on a number line, which is now a living example of what acceleration might look like in a fifth grade class with kids that don't quite yet understand fourth grade content. It's like, great, we're going to do fifth grade stuff, but I am going to deliberately make some mathematical decisions to teach this skill with the area model instead of the formal algorithm right away, because I know that that's going to expose and draw out student understanding. So you're helping me think about it. I don't know if I have a good idea of how to solve the PLC part that you kind of opened us up with, but man, you helped me. This conversation helped me. And I don't think anybody on the internet is going to listen to this and go, yeah, they rehearsed this. We really didn't. But this is an authentic conversation that really is helping me come to grips and live in harmony with this big idea.
We've read these before, we've talked about them. That's why we kind of chose these to talk about a little bit. But I'm looking out in front of me right now. Big ideas help make learning progressions across grade levels clear. That's exactly what you're saying. You're taking multiple things. You do something in fourth grade, you don't know it's going to come back out in sixth grade. You're setting up that, God, area model. Man, my life would be so much easier if they started teaching that more in fourth grade, because now I don't have to go back and say, this is why the multiplication algorithm works the way it does to sophomores. And then say, okay, now we're gonna take the numbers out. We're gonna put letters in. They all freak out, but no, I mean, I guess I wouldn't have to freak out on the numbers part anymore. And I think that's what the big ideas are meant for, right? Is to have that. It's a concept that's going to branch over multiple grade levels, and using student knowledge, their experiences to help project that. Am I interpreting that right?
I don't know. We're faking it as we go. Cole, you're giving us a thoughtful face. It's been close to a half hour. Why don't you have the last word? And we're just going to continue this conversation in our next episode, because this is worthy. This is a big idea we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I think that like listening to both of you today had really like has caused me to now pause and want to go try something and just pick a grade level and do almost like what you just described. Go through, and if I was going to do this through a PLC structure before the new guidance, what would I have said would be the things that fourth graders have to leave with? What would that have looked like? And then start trying to bundle standards that can provide those like authentic experiences that around like, you know, and start like, what would that even look like? You know, and it might not be big ideas every day, but it might be big ideas kind of like, so I now you've given me some homework, some things to think on, where I was really stuck in a lot of, I didn't know what to do because I was supporting PLC work and I'm supporting the framework work. And I just didn't see how they could coexist. And now I feel, at least, thank you. I now have ideas. Now I feel like I can go back and try to figure out what's wrong with it so I can tell you why you're wrong, Duane. But
Good. I know I'm wrong.
no.
Cole, you just sparked I thought, oh man, has Achieve Core updated everything yet? Remember they had those wonderful progression maps. I wonder if they've actually started exploring their maps in relation to the big ideas. I'd be curious.
I have no idea.
I haven't been on the site and
I mean, they talked about all their major clusters and all that sort of stuff, but that's been around. I don't know if they've updated anything.
I mean, I wonder if that's something to be looking at. I'd be kind of curious to see, because I mean, that was always awesome because you could click on one standard and go forward and backwards and see how it plays up and down the row.
Yeah.
And I wonder how that's going to look like playing up and down the clusters.
Yeah. All right. We're going to leave.
Marked. No.
We're going to leave this on a cliffhanger, man. We talked about stuff. We don't have any clear ideas. We're making progress, but you know what? I do not need us to have a podcast where we only talk about stuff that has these tidy endings, because that's not a growth mindset.
Yeah.
That's not actually pushing us to do the rocky topics that Math on the Rocks is really supposed to be about. So good. Hey, I love it. Before we sign off, I want to remind everybody who's still listening to the podcast.
Hi, Mom.
Make sure you press that little subscribe button to make sure you get notified whenever we finally upload. We are going to be doing a flurry of recording episodes at CMC South when we're down there in Palm Springs. So that's going to be there. You want to subscribe so that you're aware of those kinds of episodes that we're going to be doing from CMC South. I think that's it. Anything for the good of the order, Scott?
No, man, it's good to see you guys again. Hopefully we'll get back into the rhythm now that we're back in school year. And bless you both for the work you're doing, man. It's a tough gig.
Indeed. Cole, anything for the good of the order?
No, just thank you to everyone who tuned in today and almost through a second week.
I love it.
Right?
Second week for you, 8th week for me. I don't know. I'm pretty close. All right. Hey, love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. You do well.